There can always be balance from Mahamantra's main sadhana. We do kirtan, we also worship the deities, we also do shravana, we also associate with devotees, whatever. So we have other activities also that we do along with and of course, can always be done, but of course the principal one is anything else supports that. What are you trying to do? Stick it on.
What can you
Online,
yeah.
Complicated.
No, he'll use this laptop. Yeah, I will join the Zoom with this and I'll turn on the video and all. So I just want to know if you can see the screen sharing.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, listen to your one. Maha's mic. Can I just? That's okay. You can give it to me. Just that one. I'll stick it in here.
Oh.
African.
I don't know. Yeah, if you want to.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja
You can figure it that way. It's just checking up
Jaya Radha Madhava
if you only because that's down at 3.
Do you know how to talk?
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Ram Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare 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 Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
First, out again. Whom what? Whom yeah. Oh, yeah, because you, what is that out there?
Yeah, there's a way to actually do that. I just
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Just
So the topic tonight is Anarthas. In the Nectar Devotion, Rupa Goswami,
Oh.
at the very beginning.
Maharaj, I'm sorry to interrupt. They just want to give an introduction about you.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you very much on behalf of all of us. Welcome coming here. Let's welcome His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj was born in Canada on 26 December 1948 to most fortunate Japanese parents. His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj is one of the senior disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He holds a BA degree in Oriental Fine Arts, History from the University of British Columbia. He joined Hare Krishna movement in India in 1970, initiated in 1971 by Srila Prabhupada. He took sannyas vows in 1984. Bhanu Swami was personally instructed in art of deity worship by Srila Prabhupada, and within ISKCON, he has become an authority on this topic. He is great inspiration for many devotees around the world, and he teaches Krishna consciousness in Australia, Japan, Malaysia, Russia, and India. His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj made disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in 1971 in Tokyo. Just after his graduation in history, Srila Prabhupada was about to set on his Indian tour with his Western disciples, and Bhanu Maharaj joined with them. By 1972, His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj already earned credit from Srila Prabhupada for his exact Sanskrit pronunciation, expertise in cooking, and excellence in deity worship. He also began to translate Srila Prabhupada's books in Japanese. He continues with his translation service to this day, giving us nectar from the Bengali and Sanskrit works of previous Vaishnava Acharya. To enhance our understanding of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, he is also a member of governing body commission of ISKCON. Some of the books, there is long list of books. Maharaj has translated over 150 plus books. Big round of applause. it's quite a long list. So I will pass it on to Maharaj. Let's welcome Maharaj again and all of you by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Okay, so as I mentioned in the Nectar Devotion, Rupa Swami has given us a list of the different stages or steps in devotional service, starting with faith and Shraddha. And then we start the process of bhakti, different activities. That's called bhajana kriya. And then we go through a stage called Anartha-Nivritti, which is anarthas means impurities and unwanted, unfavorable elements that obstruct bhakti. And Nivritti means destruction. So we destroy anarthas and we come to Nishtha. Then we go to Ruci, which means taste, Asakti, great attachment. Bhava means first realization of Krishna. And Prema means full realization with Rasa. So we have these different stages of devotional service. They may go quickly, they may go slowly, depending on the individual mercy of the devotees, mercy of Krishna, and the intensity of one's sadhana. So these are all discussed in detail in a work called Madhurya Kadambini of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. So he goes through each stage and spends one chapter on each stage. So we get thorough description. Of course, he's basing it all upon scriptures like Bhagavatam to get all the details. So after we begin the process of bhakti, of course, the qualification is faith. And faith does not arise from punyas, material things. It actually arises by mercy of devotees. And then when we begin, we get the qualification of faith, which means we have an implicit acceptance of these statements made in the bhakti scriptures. We read it, we don't question it, we say, okay, I accept it. So that means faith. And if we start questioning every word, or as that Krishna says, surrender to me and only to me, then we will question that and say, why only Krishna? Why not somebody else? And then that means we don't have faith. So we have that natural faith. We're willing to accept the version of scripture, even if we don't understand it completely. That is the qualification. And it's a qualification for bhakti scriptures, not scriptures on Jnana or Karma Yoga or anything else. So it means bhakti and that pure bhakti. So then we, because we have that faith, we approach devotees, we get sadhu sangha, and through the devotees, we learn the conclusions of scripture. And then we're inspired to practice. That's the bhajana kriya. And then we go through different stages in which gradually the bhakti increases and the material tendencies or the anarthas decrease. So that decrease, that first decrease is called Anartha-Nivritti. And when the decrease of the obstructions becomes sufficient that we can practice bhakti steadily, then that is called Nishtha. That does not mean the anarthas are gone. They're still there, but they don't cause a big problem. And then we continue bhakti. The bhakti becomes stronger. The anarthas become less. And so we get to the stage of Ruci, where our taste for Krishna, which is actually arising from the Atma or the Jiva, becomes quite prominent. And that's our inspiration for progress. That leads to asakti or great attachment to the Lord. And finally, bhava means we get realization of the Lord. So we develop spiritual eyes to see the Lord and spiritual ears to hear him. So that's the general process. So in the process of bhakti, we are destroying the anarthas and we are increasing the bhakti. The bhakti itself, where is it? The bhakti is also in the jiva. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes that it's like planting a seed. The seed is bhakti, and it's planted by the mercy of Guru and Krishna. And then that seed is planted in the fertile field. The fertile field is a jiva who has faith. If you don't have faith, the seed won't plant and won't grow. So we need that faith. Then the seed is stuck into the jiva somehow, and it begins to grow and grow and grow. So it's a little plant, and it grows up, two little leaves, it grows up, and it all grows in this way. So that's the bhakti, which means that the jiva is gradually cultivating this bhakti through hearing and chanting and other processes. And bhakti is becoming stronger. That means the jiva is developing more and more attraction for the Supreme Lord. As the attraction for the Lord increases, automatically the attraction to the material world must decrease. You can't go in both directions at once. So when we say attraction to the Lord, it implies that we have less and less material attraction, less and less desire for our own pleasure. So this is how bhakti progresses, and we can identify, in most cases, certain stages. So when we begin the process, then, as I said, we begin with a lot of material desires and a little faith, and then a little bit of bhakti, and we cultivate. So that stage can be a little bit unsteady. And so we have to begin to continue the process more, and that will destroy these different types of anarthas. So most devotees will be going through these stages of, beginning the process of bhakti with faith, practicing, and going through this stage of Anartha-Nivritti and trying to reach the stage of nishtha, where we can do things steadily. And so that's a positive goal. So many devotees feel that when we talk about goals, we must have a goal. The goal of bhakti is prema. But then they say, well, that's too far away. It's too difficult to understand. So at least your immediate goal would be to get through Anartha-Nivritti and get to nishtha. And then you can practice steadily. So that's the first goal we can get to, an immediate goal, and which is not too difficult to get to. So in this process, then we have to practice nicely, and gradually these different anarthas disappear. There are different types of anarthas. Vishnu Chakravarti identifies 4 types. Anarthas arising from previous sinful activity, arising from previous pious activity, arising from offenses, arising from imperfectly performed bhakti. So these are different ways in which anarthas can appear. All of these create some obstacle to the growth of bhakti. So we have to be careful of them. But as I said, the process of bhakti itself should destroy these anarthas. So anarthas arise from previous sinful activity. We know that sinful activity is defined as, of course, things forbidden by scripture. So things forbidden by scripture are usually things which cause unnecessary violence to other living entities. That's a general description. And according to the amount of disturbance we cause to other living entities, we get similar disturbance on ourselves, and that's our bad karma. So every act gets its final reaction somewhere in some future lifetime. So that's one aspect of sinful activity. We get some bad results in this lifetime, such as poverty, bad health, short lifespan, etc., etc. The other aspect of previous sinful activity, it leaves impressions within us. So we have certain impressions of things we like or things we dislike. And that's caused our sinful activities, or was a result of our sinful activities in previous lifetimes. So if you're doing all sorts of sinful sense gratification activities in previous lifetime, then likely you're going to be attached to those things in this lifetime also. Your vasanas from previous lives continue in this lifetime. So both these things can cause problems in your devotional service, particularly the vasanas. Of course, even the karmas that we're getting can cause problems. So if you have continually bad health, then obviously you cannot do bhakti so nicely because it's always getting always sick or whatever. But apart from that, then we have all these things. You may have great anger, you may have great greed, you may have great lust coming from previous sinful activities of last life or this life. And they create a lot of problems because they are basically based on our identity as a material body and our desire to enjoy and whatever. So they create obstacles. Pious activities, of course, lead to nice results. Generally, we're not considered that bad. If we're born with a lot of money and we make money easily, we got good intelligence and whatever, and good now. This is why this is an obstacle to us. But it is like, as Bhagavad Gita says, sattva gun, you become conditioned to that type of happiness. So therefore, you may not be so inclined to take the devotional service and give up everything for Krishna. Krishna says, give up everything. And just surrender to me. So because you got all these pious assets in this lifetime, you may not be willing to give up things for devotional service and surrendering to Krishna. So in that sense, it can be a little bit of a obstacle for you. The other obstacle is that pious activities can lead you to sattva gun, which is nice and peaceful, of course. But then sattva gun, one aspect can lead you into impersonalism and mukti instead of devotional service. So therefore, that also becomes a obstacle. And if you're in sattva gun, then you may get a little attraction to bhakti. Then you may have mixed bhakti, jnana Mr. Bhakti or something instead of pure bhakti. Great obstacles for you. This is a little diagram of the how karma results. It starts out with ignorance. That's the initial principle or tattva, we can say, that affects the jiva, ignorance. And that leads to sense of material I. And then becomes ahankara. And we identify with material body. And with the material body, we have material senses. And then we try to use our senses to enjoy in the material world. And we develop attachments, which we call raga. And we develop dvesha, or hatred of things which will obstruct our desires to get our satisfaction through our senses. This further leads to complete identity with our activities in the material world called abhinivesh. And then consequently, we get completely afraid of death because that will interrupt our whole program. So, in doing all this, we do actions. As a result of this, we're doing actions based on raga and dvesha, abhinivesh. We do actions to attain what we want and which will give us, we think will give us happiness, and to avoid those things which will obstruct that or cause pain. So we do actions, and these actions lead to karma. Good effects or bad effects, depending on what type of action we take. So we do the sinful activities or violent activities, we end up suffering in a future lifetime. We can go to hell. We can get lower animal bodies or plant bodies or whatever. Or we can be a human being, and then we have to get lots of miseries. We do pious activities, that is acts of compassion for other living entities. Then we get enjoyment in our next lifetime. We can be a human being with lots of enjoyment, or we can go to Svargaloka or whatever and get heavenly enjoyment also. And both of these end up with problems for us, as I said. Yeah. Another type of anartha is from aparads. Aparad is distinguished from sin. Of course, it's also a sin because it is a type of violence, but it is particularly in relation to bhakti, or the name, or the devotee spreading the holy name, or the Supreme Lord, who is non-different from the name. So in other words, they're devotional operads, devotional violence, devotional sins. So we have sins against living entities who are not devotees and whatever. Then we have sins involving offending the Lord, offending bhakti, offending the name, offending the devotees. That becomes the aparad. So of course, because it is a sin, you can get bad, terrible karmic effects. But worse than that is that you can develop effects which will injure your bhakti or destroy your bhakti. So that's the worst effect, actually. The sin itself does not necessarily destroy your bhakti. So we're doing bhakti and we do a sin. Doesn't, next lifetime, we can continue our bhakti. We do aparadhs, we may have no bhakti in our next life at all. That's the difference. So the aparadhs are more dangerous because they affect the bhakti. They can decrease it, they can destroy it. If we do unconscious aparadhs, that is accidental, we don't intend, we have no malicious intent, but accidentally somebody gets offended, that's not so serious, and we constantly chant, we can get rid of the offense. When it is conscious aparadh, we have malicious intent behind the aparadh, particularly the devotee aparadhs, Vaishnava aparadhs. The effect is very great, and it's very difficult to remove. So we have to be very, very careful of that. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that the Vaishnava aparadha offending the devotee is like the mad elephant. And the mad elephant will come in the garden and rip everything up, including your little bhakti plant. So that's what happens. Your bhakti can get destroyed by aparadhs against devotees. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains a few of the aparadhs, not all of them. If you want a thorough description of the Vaishnava aparadhs, you can find that in Harinama Chintamani of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He spends one chapter on each of the Nam aparadhs, so he has more details there. In Madhura Kadambini, Vishnu Chakravarti, I think explains 3 or 4 of the aparadhs here. So then the first one is sadhu ninda, or literally criticism of the devotees. It can be not just criticism, animosity in general, which could be mental, physical, verbal, etc. So if it is intentional or malicious or whatever, consciously done, then it has very serious effects. And as I said, difficult to remove that effect. In other words, your bhakti is greatly damaged. So your willingness or eagerness to do bhakti is also minimized. So the remedy actually is bhakti itself, but since you've destroyed your bhakti by the aparadhs, you don't want to do bhakti anymore. So therefore it's difficult to get out of that situation when you commit this very, very serious Vaishnava aparadh. Anyway, if it happens, then the remedy is one, repentance. One has to regret one's faulty activity of criticizing or somehow being hostile towards a devotee or devotees. One should offer apology to that devotee. And he may accept or not accept. Usually he would accept, but sometimes they may not accept for some reason. And then after that, one has to forget about the aparadh or whatever and give proper respect to that person. And one has to continually chant the holy name. So that's the general remedy. And if you don't go through that procedure, then your bhakti will get less and less and less, and may disappear even. So that's the general procedure. Yeah, so in the case of the Vaishnava doesn't accept your apology, all you can do, you've done your duty of apologizing and repenting, whatever, then you can just continue to chant and chant and chant. And gradually, then the bhakti will begin to recover from that point. If one says, I'll chant, but doesn't want to apologize, that makes the offense worse, and then you get less bhakti still, and you won't be able to chant also. And if you think that you don't have to apologize because the Vaishnava has real faults, then that again is further offense. So be careful of that. We can't justify our activities based on our perceptions. So on the second aparadh is to think that the name of Vishnu and Shiva and Brahma are all equal or whatever. In other words, we think all the devatas are equal to the Supreme Lord Vishnu and Shiva and Brahma and Indra, etc. All one, they're all equal, etc. That, of course, is a misunderstanding of the tattva of the Supreme Lord himself. But then it extends to the name also, because we chant the name of Krishna, and then we'll think he's a devata also. So it's reflected in our chanting of the holy name. So we do have to have some knowledge when we chant the holy name. Of course, you can chant the holy name like Ajamil, not knowing it's the holy name. Generally, you're not going to commit this offense because you're not thinking of Vishnu at all, or anybody, or any devata. You just name your child Narayan or something. So then there's no offense there. However, we do have people who are consciously chanting the name of the Supreme Lord, and maybe for material reasons or whatever, without proper knowledge. And so they may think, I will chant the name of Vishnu or Krishna, and I would also chant the name of Shiva and Brahma and Indra and Ganesh and whatever. And they're all the same. So that's offense. So the person is intentionally chanting, and he's also got some bad philosophical conceptions there. That's an offense. So to prevent that, then we need knowledge. So though the holy name is independent of everything else, to chant purely and to avoid offenses, we do need some knowledge. And that's why we have books. So we have Bhagavad Gita, we have Bhagavata, we have Chaitanya, and we have to know certain basic facts. So fact number one is we have Supreme Lord at the top, Vishnu, Krishna, Rama, etc., Bhagavan. Topmost, no one superior, no one causes Supreme Lord. He is independent. Shiva is almost the same. He's like an expansion of Vishnu. He's not a Jiva, but he manifests less qualities. He associates with Tamagun, though he's not contaminated by it. When he's a Jiva, he could be covered by the gunas. Otherwise, he's not actually covered. But at the same time, he is not same as Vishnu because he doesn't manifest as many qualities. So in nectar devotion, Shiva is ascribed 55 qualities and Vishnu 60 qualities. So there's 5 qualities that Shiva does not manifest, even though he's like another form of Vishnu. Brahma is generally a Jiva who's given special powers by the Supreme Lord. So distinctly different, though sometimes the Lord also takes the role. And because he is a Jiva, then we cannot really say he is the same as Vishnu at all. In any case, we shouldn't confuse them or any other Jiva with the position of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So another offense is Shruti Shastra and disrespect for the Shruti, which are the, in this case, Vishnu Chakravarti identifies Shruti as the Vedas. So we don't disrespect the Shrutis. Now, there is apparent grounds for criticizing the Vedas because we do have Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, which is very materialistic, and its only goal is Svargaloka. And therefore, people that follow this Karma Kanda are criticized in the scriptures themselves. The Jnana scriptures and the Brahma Sutras will criticize, Upanishads will criticize these people doing Karma Kanda as being foolish. Krishna himself says they're foolish in Bhagavad Gita. People who go to the devatas, worship the devatas, and go to Svargaloka, foolish because they fall down again and they don't get out of the material world. So though that Lord himself even criticizes, and the Jnana scriptures also criticize Karma Kanda, which is part of the Vedas, we should appreciate that it is part of the Vedas. And even we criticize Jnana also, and merging in Brahman, etc., which is also part of the Vedas. So you have Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda are parts of the Vedas, and they're meant for specific types of people who are not qualified for bhakti. And therefore, people follow that then. And they can have faith in bhakti, then they'll follow that. So the Vedas have different processes for people of different qualification. And therefore, in that sense, we don't criticize. If they can't do bhakti, they better do something. So let's let them do karma yoga if they can't do anything else. So therefore, in that sense, we don't criticize. On the other hand, we should not think they're all the same. The karma yoga and yoga stanga yoga are the same. No, they're not. You have different goals, and there are different amounts of bliss in each. So they are different and they have different goals. So therefore, we have to be careful when we talk about scripture. In the even in nectar devotion, there one of the angas of bhakti is don't criticize the devatas. So generally, we also like to criticize devatas as well as karmakanda, but there in bhakti, in the nectar devotion, says don't criticize the devatas. They're authorized by the Supreme Lord to do certain activities. They're also devotees of the Lord. So ultimately, we can't criticize them. What we can criticize is people identifying them as the Supreme Lord. That we can say is wrong. And we can show people from scripture that that's wrong. At the same time, we don't criticize the Devatas as such. They're simply doing their work. So therefore, if we have that fault of criticizing the Shrutis, the Karma Kanda especially, or even Gyan Kanda, then we should recognize that this is improper because they are processes meant for people who cannot do bhakti, and therefore is acceptable. So instead of criticizing the Shrutis or the Vedas, we praise them and praise their followers and chant the holy name. So that way we get rid of that offense. The fourth type of anartha was anarthas arising from bhakti. This looks like a little contradiction. Bhakti is bhakti, it destroys anarthas. Anartha-Nivritti is the stage of destruction of anarthas by bhakti itself. So how can anarthas arise from bhakti? Huh? So the other three, of course, were not arising from bhakti. They were arising from karmas or pious activities or from aparads, yeah, from our ignorance, so to speak. But how bhakti is not ignorance, how can that give rise to anarthas? So it's not that the bhakti itself gives rise to the anartha, but how we practice the bhakti, which gives rise to the anarthas. So when we cultivate bhakti, then we can get material assets, we can get money, we can get worship and respect, we can get position, fame, etc. So many things can come as a result of doing bhakti. It's described in scriptures that the devotee is pursued by material benefits. Bhakti. Bhakti and mukti, they follow the devotee saying, please, we want to give you something. And then some devotees get attracted. Yeah, I want that. So these are the things that bhakti is supplying to you. Material assets, worship, fame, money, all this. And if you get attracted to them, then this becomes the anartha. So it's not that the bhakti is causing the anartha, but bhakti gives rise to things which are material, and you get attracted to those things which arose because of bhakti, not because of your pious activities or anything, because you did bhakti. You get all these material things, then you get attracted to them. That produces the anartha. Yeah? So when we get that attraction, then it becomes an obstacle to our devotional service. Yeah? So of course, these things are destroyed by the process of bhakti itself. So we have the sin and the pious activities, and we do bhakti. And this is one of the first characteristics of bhakti mentioned, nectar devotion, kleshagni, destruction of suffering, and suffering arises from karma. So therefore, bhakti destroys karma, and we will see this from the beginning of devotional service. So we get a little, and we do more, we get more result. By nishta, most of the effects of the karmas are gone. And so, in other words, we don't feel miserable in any circumstance, and even though we may have traces of vasanas like anger or whatever, it is under by nishta stage. Anartha is still there, but not affecting our bhakti. When we get to end of asakti stage, then all of that is gone. All the effects of the karmas and the vasanas gone. So very, very good stage. Asakti, great attachment to the Supreme Lord. Floti bhakti. So a little in the beginning of bhakti, more when we do, well, mostly all by Ruci stage and the Ruci or attachment. Then all of the anarthas due to faulty bhakti are gone. But we see aparads is more dangerous. The aparads get destroyed also, but much more slowly. So we see that we get to bhava. Most of us destroyed prema most, and then all when you get to the spiritual world is all gone. In other words, the aparad can stick to you. And the aparads may not be from this lifetime, but from previous lifetime. And they can stick to you, even into bhava stage. So it's described that Bharat Maharaj became attracted to a deer when he had bhava. And he had realized Vishnu, and he had ecstatic symptoms. But then he got attracted to a deer, so it sounds very strange. If you see the Lord, why would you become attracted to a material deer? Because the Lord has a spiritual form. And he was experiencing, the bhava with ecstatic symptoms. And became attracted to a deer. So then how is it possible? So the answer is that in a previous lifetime, he committed some aparad, and then the effect began to show up even in bhava stage. So he became attracted to the deer. So in other words, aparads are quite serious, and they can linger and linger and linger even into the bhava stage. So very, very dangerous in that sense, because they more difficult to remove the effects of aparad than sinful activities or faulty bhakti, etc. Okay, we don't do that. Yeah. So in other words, we say the different stages from faith to prema, and we see the anarthas as the blue section. And as we do bhakti, the bhakti increases, and naturally attraction to material things decreases. So therefore, it's naturally as we progress through nishta, etc., the pink section, which is the bhakti section, becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And the blue section becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. It's automatic. More attraction to Krishna, less attraction to material things, and consequently less anarthas. However, the aparads, that's the gray section at the end. We see even in asakti, even in bhava, they're giving their little bit of effect there. So more dangerous. So they are destroyed at a slower rate. Even though bhakti itself is, strong, the aparads take more endeavor to destroy, more time. Vishnu Chakravarti makes a very interesting point, and that is that these stages, Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajanakriya, Anartha-Nivritti, etc., are there. But he says this is for people who have committed namaparas. So we get gradual effect. If you don't have that, you're not going to get gradual stages. It's very, very sudden. So you get Shraddha, Bhajanakriya, suddenly you're in Nishta, and then you're in Asakti, and then you're in Bhava. So the distinction between the stages is much less if you have committed no aparads, nam-aparads in previous lifetime and this lifetime. And if you have, then you get this slower progress, and we have distinct stages. We see that Ajamil had no bhakti at all, had no faith, but due to some mercy from the devotee in previous lifetime, he happened to name his son Narayana. And immediately he did that, all of his karmas and his vasanas, past, present, future, got completely annihilated. So that's very quick effect. And he wasn't a devotee. But it was quick because no aparads, no nam-aparads in previous lifetime or this lifetime. So we got a very quick effect. If he had committed some aparads, nam-aparads, then effect would have been slower. He wouldn't have destroyed all of his karmas, wouldn't have destroyed all his vasanas. But very quick effect because no nam-aparads. So that from this we can also see the seriousness of nam-aparads. Somebody's asking a question. Okay. So the aparad is like sickness. So we're doing bhakti, we're doing bhajana kriya, then we do some aparad. So what happens is bhakti loses its potency, it loses its attraction for us. we lose the taste for chanting and doing other types of bhakti. Yeah. So that's a sign that we've committed some aparad. Because if we start where we start developing suddenly we go backwards like that, something's wrong. So then maybe it's aparad. We've committed some aparad, and the strongest one, of course, is the Vaishnava aparad. So once we start losing this taste for chanting, then the only solution is to chant. But because you've lost your taste for chanting, you don't want to do it. So this is why it's very dangerous, because the solution, you don't want the solution. You lost your taste for it. So if that person is intelligent and gets the advice of other devotees, in spite of the fact that he has no taste, he will, with his intelligence, start to chant more and whatever. And through that process, gradually the effects of the offense will lessen and lessen and lessen. And as the effects lessen, taste will increase, and he'll be easy. It will be easier for him to chant, and that way he can recover. So that's the danger of these different offenses. So that's the worst type of anartha, I guess. It would be the offenses. So as I said, it could be from previous lifetimes or this lifetime. Previous lifetimes, aparads, we don't have any control at the moment, but they can affect you. And we see in the case of Bharat had a very serious effect, even in his, Bhava stage. We can't do anything about that, but it may influence us in our progress. Our progress can be slowed in general because of that. We do have control over the aparads of this lifetime by getting knowledge. If we know what the aparads are, then we can try to avoid them. So that will give us some, compensation. If we were in this lifetime, we committed aparads again before we became devotees, that's also serious. So that's a problem for us, and then we have to deal with that as well. If it is, we do aparads after we've taken to devotional service, and it's intentional, then of course it's quite serious. It's going to affect us quite badly. And then we have to go through this whole procedure of repenting, apologizing, etc., and chanting the holy name. So in any case, therefore, we have to see that we progress in devotional service in order to get satisfaction from bhakti. Then we have to see that we are progressing. If we don't progress, obviously we cannot be satisfied. Just as if you're growing a plant and it stops growing, it's a big frustration. So we want to see the plant grows nicely. So if it starts to slow down, whatever, then we have to carefully diagnose and see why. And then one thing is it could be the aparads. May not be. It could be, karmas or whatever still affecting you. But another is a serious one is the aparads. So we should examine very carefully for that. So, in spite of the fact that bhakti destroys karmas and suffering, etc., and generally they may not have done any offense, sometimes we see that devotees do suffer. So why would they suffer if they're doing bhakti and they're not committing offense, and it should destroy all the karmas, etc.? Then we say, why they're not advancing, why are they suffering, etc.? So the answer is that one, of course, is we cannot see the internal workings of the jiva. We cannot predict the mercy of Krishna. And the name itself may decide to give gradual effects rather than sudden effects. And it may hide the effects also. So that's the case of Ajamil. Ajamil got all of his karmas destroyed when he named his son Narayana. But he looked like he was the same person for the rest of his life, 5 years, and he was doing sinful activities and attached to the prostitute and whatever. And Even he didn't know he had changed. Nobody could understand that he had changed at all. He looked like the same old sinful person the rest of his life. But when the Yamadutas came, they couldn't touch him. There was no sin. Purified, and even he didn't know. Ajumil didn't know he had been purified of all of his karmas, but they were all gone. But it was hidden, so the appearance was of Ajumil was the same as he was before. But actually, internally, his karmas are gone, etc. So they may act like that sometimes also. We can't see the internal effect. It's only an appearance that's taking place. Yeah. So, of course, other cases may be there. We have Nityasiddha devotees, like the Pandavas seem to suffer. But they're not actually suffering because they don't have material bodies at all. And in that case, also, there's no karma. It's no aparad. So it's an arrangement of the Supreme Lord. So for certain purposes. So sometimes the Lord makes his own arrangements, even for perfected devotees, and it may look like they're suffering or whatever. But that's only apparent also. So we cannot always judge by external circumstances about devotees. It's also explained that even a devotee has advanced to prema and still has a material body. It may appear that he suffers. He may get accident, may get sick, and of course, ultimately he dies, which is also karma. And so then we'll say, well, look, what's Krishna doing? He's supposed to, you're a prima, you shouldn't have any karma by then. Looks like he's got karma. And the astrologer said, yes, look, I predicted this. You're going to get sick in this year. He got sick in this year. He had accident here, and he's supposed to be in prema. Oh, he's got karma. But then our acharyas explain, no, it's not karma. It appears to be karma, but it's not under the law of karma at all. It's under the Supreme Lord's will. So the Lord keeps a little pattern of karma even for the perfected devotee in prema. Why? Because you do have a body, and it has to get affected by somehow by the material world. It can't just float around, like that. So you're interacting with other living entities, and you look like other living entity also, and you may get sick like them and whatever. So there's a little pattern going on, but it's not due to karma. It's Supreme Lord's arrangement only. So therefore, we can't always take the superficial appearance of things and say, oh, that's all karma. They must have committed offense or whatever. Yeah? Okay, fine. Okay, so that's dealing with anarthas. Any question there?
Thank you, Maharaj, for the nice presentation. A devotee may go through a period of difficulty in their bhakti, their sadhana may suffer for some time because of some material, maybe some health reason. How to diagnose if that is a result of Krishna karma, Krishna trying to purify us or something, or an aparad?
Yeah. Well, we don't actually know, but at the same time, the devotee's attitude, the one who's experiencing suffering, whatever, their attitude should be that it's their responsibility, and probably they must have done some karma in their past lifetime. So there's a result of that. They're getting some effect now, and they take responsibility for it. And they don't blame the Lord. Oh, the Lord, why he's such a bad master that he's testing us all the time and torturing us and whatever, just to see if we're gonna survive in our bhakti by giving us all these tests or whatever. He doesn't think like that at all. Well, whatever it is, it's my bad karma from past lifetimes, and I just accept it and whatever. And he continues with his devotional service. In other words, he doesn't try to interpret what it's from, but he just continues his devotional service. Of course, if the bhakti gets affected, then he may be thinking, well, maybe I've done some aparad or something like that. Because when bhakti goes down, then it looks like the aparad, it's not the sinful effects there, it's just the aparads that must have done something to your bhakti to make it go down. So then he'll seriously consider maybe he's committed some aparad or something. Mhm.
It may be argued that in the impure stage or in the stage of ignorance, it's inevitable to commit aparads. So therefore, the stacks are quite weighed against us
Mhm.
because the effects of it are so great.
Yeah, if we're in ignorance, we're more likely to commit offense. But that's also, we can say, according to individuals. Uh, some individuals are not devotees, but by their nature, they're very kind. They don't are not violent or whatever. They don't get disturbed in dire circumstances. They're very unlikely to commit uparads, like someone who's very agitated and whatever, and is full of hate or whatever like that. So it would depend on the individual. And they're both ignorant in one sense because they don't know anything about Krishna. They don't know anything about, in spite of when we think, okay, therefore people in Sattva-gun will be better than people in Tamagun, which would be a general principle because people in Sattva-gun are calmer and they control the senses and mind, etc. So they're less likely to be agitated by anybody, whatever. But then we see the Brahmanas get envious of devotees also, like with they criticize Haridas Thakur, they criticize Lord Chaitanya's movement, whatever like that. So even if you're in sattva, then you could commit aparads in that way by because you don't like bhakti or whatever. But on the other hand, we have someone who's very low in tamagun, like Murari the hunter. And then somehow or other, he agreed to follow the instruction of Narada Muni and throw down his bow, and then he became a great devotee. So we can't really predict on the basis of background or gunas or anything how people are going to respond to bhakti, ignorant or not ignorant or whatever. Ajamil looked like the worst person, but then in the paparazzi. So he chanted accidentally, all his cameras got destroyed immediately. And so we really can't predict who's going to be the aparati or whatever.
But Maharaj, in order for a Jamil to be in that position of wanting to name his son Narayan,
Yeah.
surely then that itself is a manifestation of something he did please.
Yeah, Vishnu Chakravarti says that because he got some mercy of a devotee in previous lifetimes, then he was able to do that. But that mercy also was not, he looked for it because he had no devotion. So it was accidental mercy of some sort. Maybe he got prashadam or something, whatever, and then decided to name his son Narayan because of that.
Right?
Maharaj, in the chart, after the prema stage, you mentioned like a siddha stage.
That means after you leave your body.
Oh.
Yeah. So he doesn't explain that, but he says even in prema, that's within you have the body, there's slight offense. He doesn't explain that, but my thoughts on that would be that the devotee himself in prema does not in any way commit offenses intentionally. But because of the nature of the material world, other people get offended anyway. So then even that gives some effect on us, as we see in the case of, with Rupa Goswami laughing, and then the other sadhu got upset, and then that caused his bhakti to decrease or whatever like that. So in that sense, you could have effects because you're still in the material world. But when you're in the spiritual world, then that won't happen at all because there is no impure people there to take offense for you. No.
Some days we feel we have a better taste for chanting than other days.
Yeah.
So would that be the result of aparad as well?
Could be. There's another thing when we start bhakti, then it's called the anishita stage or the unsteady stage. So there's different characteristics explained in Madhura Kadamani. One of them is called guna taralata. Guna means thick and taralata means thin. So sometimes you can intensely do bhakti and sometimes no taste at all. So you sometimes it's good, sometimes bad. You can be enthusiastic, sometimes not enthusiastic. So you shift back and forth. So that's a sign of unsteadiness. It may not be due to aparats, it's just due to the fact that we begin devotional service and the bhakti is there, but we do have a lot of influence of anarthas and whatever. And so therefore, we get influence and our bhakti cannot go on steadily. So it may not be due to aparats and just to our bhakti is at a certain stage where the anarthas are still influencing us too much. What's that?
Maharaj, sometimes in Resta ashram, the husband and wife might discuss other devotees just to air feelings in there. Is that also a practice?
What was that?
Husband and wife.
Disagreeing.
No,
Arguing.
discuss about the character of other devotees. Is that an aparad?
Well, if it is done with, you see, devotees have faults. Most devotees are going to have some faults. And the thing is, we should not dwell on the faults if it's not creating a big problem for other people and for that devotee in itself, because we know that bhakti purifies, gets rid of the anarthas, and gradually comes to nishta, where the faults are minimal anyway, so we don't really dwell on it. So therefore, we shouldn't criticize unnecessarily or gossip about it. There are cases, of course, where could be serious fault, which could also affect other devotees. So therefore, we may have to do something about it. But even in that case, we should not take it in a malicious way. We should do it in more of a diagnostic way and think of how to help that devotee or help the other devotees that don't get influenced by that or whatever. So we have to do it all very without personal motivation or whatever when we speak of that.
Maharaj, how do we differentiate that it's if we are not able to do bhakti, it's because of Maya, or is it because of the aparads we have done?
Faith?
Like
We don't have enough faith, you're saying?
The difference between Maya.
Yeah.
And the difference
How do
between
different,
aparad. Maya and aparad. We understand we don't want to do devotional service. I'm a Maya, or it's because of aparad.
Oh, well, it could be either. As I said at the beginning of devotional service, we got a lot of Maya, a little bit of bhakti. So therefore, our inclination is not so strong. So it's not because of aparad necessarily. It could be, but and maybe just because we're beginning bhakti. If after 20 years we're still a little bit, just doing bhakti a little and we got a lot, then maybe it's because we're not progressing because of some aparad in that case. But in the beginning stage, it's natural. We don't have so much faith and so much enthusiasm. But as we go on and do bhakti, it should become stronger.
Marriage is they said that if we're committing any of the 10 offenses, we'll lose our taste for chanting and we'll become inattentive. But then it also says that actually being inattentive is the cause of those 10 aparads. So how do we understand this kind of contradiction?
Yeah, that's one thing. The other is the 10th aparad is considered to be, material attachment. But then everybody's got material attachment, so everybody's an aparadi. Everybody's an aparadi. How are they going to advance? So these aparads also have to be taken in a little context. And so the aparad of inattention, everybody to some extent is going to be inattentive as long as they don't have prema. So, we start out and our minds are in control, and then we get a little more control. We get to nishta. We can do our bhakti steadily still. It's not perfect. Ruci a little better, Asakti a little better, Bhava is even better, but not perfect. Only in prema that we are perfect, and we've got perfect intention. So what the inattention means is that we do have inattention in the beginning. It's also, we say, natural, and should decrease as we go on. But we do have to try to avoid circumstances which favor the inattention. In other words, we have to try to stay alert. We have to get enough sleep so that when we're chanting our rounds, we don't fall asleep or whatever, don't eat too much or whatever. So we have to try always to be attentive when we're doing our sadhana. And if we don't do that, then obviously we're going to have problems. So with our intelligence, then we try to be attentive. It's not perfect, of course, but then, we as much as possible we do. So then that's not offense. We're trying to our best of our ability. So the same with the 10th aparad, too much material attachment is there. So generally, of course, people with faith take to the process of bhakti. That means that their material attachment has decreased to some extent. Otherwise, they wouldn't even begin doing bhakti at all. If a person does begin bhakti with all those material attachments, probably they cannot continue. They will do bhakti and the material attachments are too much, so they go backwards. So this is like the boatman with the anchor in the water, and he's trying to go up going up the stream. It's not going anywhere because the anchor is there. So if we consciously hold on to the material attachments in spite of the fact that we know it's probably wrong. And we say, I want to go to Krishna. Well, we say, I want to go to Maya also. It doesn't work. You can't go opposite directions at once. So either one or the other, but you can't pretend to be a
mentioned earlier that holy name is the solution for the sinful activities as well as the anarthas, and that the holy name may choose to reveal itself.
yeah.
Is there anything we can influence in that regard, or it's
to get more immediate visible effects something we can't do anything. It's up to the mercy of Krishna and the holy name how they want to reveal the effects, or if they don't want to reveal the effects or whatever. Yeah.
With regard to raising children, everybody wants that their child becomes a devotee, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So again, we're dealing with living entities that come into a situation that when they're, like you're saying, they have material desires are too strong and putting them away.
Yeah. So how do we deal with it?
How do we do it?
Oh, well, yeah, we can give all opportunities to the children. We cannot force them at all. So all we can do is give opportunities. They may take or not take. When they're young, especially, of course, they don't choose. They just follow the parents in general up to the age of what, 7, 8, 10 or something, and then they become a little independent, whatever. So we can do as much as we can, but we can never, let's say, force them into any one position, especially as they get older. And if their tendencies are opposite, what can we do? That's all. We can just encourage them and give them lots of prasadam and make them happy in some sort of sense, indirectly, more or less, if they can't take directly, and expose them to the holy name, whatever they can do. So we have to recognize their tendencies. We cannot preach to the faithless. So if somehow or other they happen to be faithless, then what can we do about it? But still, we can treat them in such a way that they don't become, let's say, demons or whatever.
Understand that an elevated soul, a devotee, is very kind and merciful. Then how do we understand Durvasa Muni?
Durvasa Muni, well, he's not really regarded as a prime devotee. He's more like a Gyani or something like that. So, and then they get angry and whatever, and they show some bad qualities or whatever. So, the examples of devotees are people like Prahlad or Ambarish.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. And Maharaj, earlier you were mentioning the different parts of the Shruti, and it's important not to criticize the different parts of the scriptures. So, just to understand, Mayavad, is it also part of the
well, the Jnana is a section.
Yeah.
Now, we have various interpretations of that. So Mayavad is one interpretation of that, and we say it's a wrong interpretation of it. Of course, we can say the same thing about Karmakanda. The Karmakandis who say that the ultimate goal of life is Svargaloka and nothing else at all. Then again, that's a wrong interpretation. So we're free to criticize those wrong interpretations. And we shouldn't criticize the Jnana scriptures or the Karmakanda scriptures as such, because as we know, even Krishna, he's talking about karma yoga and Bhagavad Gita, talks about Jnana, etc. And we also have Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan as 3 aspects of the Supreme Lord, and they're Advaya Jnana, they're one entity. So in that sense, we can't even criticize Brahman because it's part of the Supreme Lord. If we criticize it, we're criticizing the Lord. But what we do criticize is say that's the only thing that exists, Brahman, and Bhagavan doesn't exist. That's aparad against the Lord. So that we do criticize. So that's a false conception, Or to say that nothing exists except Brahman, and Jiva doesn't exist, and the form of the Lord doesn't exist. Again, that's aparad. So then we can criticize that.
I was wondering, sometimes over the course of our practice, as the years go on, certain desires based off past activities we used to do before being devotees, they come and they go.
Yeah.
And sometimes they come up again unexpectedly. So I was wondering, how do you differentiate between whether they're caused by aparads, by lapse in practice, or movements of the mind?
Yeah, well, we can't really tell. All we can do is, and of course, if they happen, and then if we're fortunate enough, we can recognize what they are, and we can beware of their, their influence on us and try to be careful. That's all we can do. And, obviously, then we engage ourselves in devotional service to get rid of those tendencies or momentary appearance of those desires.
You just talked about Abhinivesh.
Yeah.
I just missed that. Could you just
Yeah.
explain that again?
Abhinivation means absorption. So we get completely absorbed in our material identity at that stage. And consequently, we want to continue our, life of, desire and hatred, and we have a fear of death.
But if one is on the bucket ladder, say Baba, mentioning about Bharat Maharaj or Prema, and then they do aparad, then and then they apologize to the devotee and beg forgiveness. And do they come back to the stage of Baba or Prema straight away, or do they go back down to Nista or Ruci?
It would depend on the situation. I think in the Nectar Devotion there, when Rupa Goswami talks of bhava, then he says that if you were to commit an offense in the bhava stage, then you could go to bhava bhas, which is like a reflection of bhava, which could be, anywhere lower than that, than the bhava stage. Or he says, if it was not so serious, your bhava may change into from Dasya to Anta or something like that. It demotes to a lower category or something like that. So it depends on the seriousness of the aparad, how far you would go down from your aparad.
Even after apologizing.
Oh, if you apologize, then you could you readily do that. Then you can probably rectify it and not seriously get affected.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Mm.
If someone is intentionally rude to you and you try to control yourself and you do not show your anger or rudeness towards them, but if they try to do it intentionally once, twice, thrice, how do you get out of that situation? If you have to deal with that person on a daily basis.
And they keep criticizing or whatever.
Thank you, because it's like we are in a Kalyug state and we know it should be tit for tat.
Yeah.
But Krishna basically mercy towards other people, but you need to come to some level where you feel they should also respect you or not be as rude to you.
Now, of course, we know that Lord Chaitanya says, humble as the blade of grass and give respect to all others and don't expect respect for yourself. That's a general principle. In a particular situation, maybe if it's difficult, then you try to avoid the person completely. That's all.
So if I'm thinking that I do not want to be rude to you, it's in my thoughts that I should not be rude to you. But again, I'm thinking, oh no, why is he doing that to me?
Yeah.
So is that an aparad in itself? Because
No. As long as you don't start thinking I'll take revenge on them and whatever.
So is it an aparad when you are hungry and you offer, but with the mindset that do it quick so that not only that, then in your mind you also get a feel that I have offered and I have sustained that hunger, and but your mind you still feel that I have offered, and that that gives you a feel of superiority that at least I could have done faster, but I have done all the process, and then so that is that also.
It's not actually apparatus, maybe it's just some impurity, that's all. So in devotional service, as I said, we start with, anarthas and so many things there, and as we progress, they become less and less and less. So that's not necessarily because of aparad or whatever that our desires still manifest, or material desires still manifest. It's just an aspect of our progress, that's all. So the more we progress, the less we're going to think like that, that's all. Okay.
So I have some questions online.
Oh, I don't know. Where are they? You got them?
Okay, so regarding the holy name and initiation, it has become common knowledge that at the time of initiation, the guru takes on the initiate's
Yeah,
karma.
yeah.
In his Sanskrit.
Is there any?
Sanskrit reference.
There is a Shastric reference in the, for instance, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it says when it's talking about Diksha, not about holy name, but Diksha, which is the mantras of second initiation, that when you get that, then it says, well, the guru should not take too many disciples because then he can get affected by their karmas. But then he says that it's just like the husband for the wife, or the teacher, the purohit, for his students, or the king for his citizens. That if the dependent person commits a sin, part of the responsibility is on the person who's protecting them. So therefore they share in that sense, which means not previous sins, but after the responsibility is taken for the guru, for the disciple, or for the teacher, for the pupil, or whatever. And then the pupil commits a sin, then they bear not the complete, but part of the responsibility for that. And that's, of course, normal conditions. So, of course, the holy name itself destroys all karmas. And people who are taking initiation probably chanting for so long anyway, they've destroyed all their karmas. So then the guru doesn't have to do that part of it, destroy all your karmas or whatever. But again, if the disciple happens to do sinful activities after he takes initiation, then guru has to take some of that result. But of course, the guru is also chanting and he's doing devotional service. It's not likely he's going to be too much affected by any of that. But in any case, that's not the goal of bhakti, to take initiation to destroy your karmas.
So regarding the stages of bhakti and pitfalls, in the pastimes of Rupa Goswami, while in samadhi/meditation, he inadvertently appeared to a friend, a Vaishnava, and his samadhi was broken.
Yeah.
He is Rupa Manjari and one who has prema. I'm not sure what the condition is. How about the case of widespread offences to sadhus outside of the institute? Do both the institute and the individual suffer?
Outside the institute.
Yeah, how about the case of widespread offence to sadhus outside of the institute, meaning outside of its content?
Yeah, well, we have to, depending on what type of sadhu. Also, the sadhus in general, in up at Kumbh Mela or whatever, there's a long type. If it's, then there's the ones in Vrindavan, and then, of course, then there is Gaudiyas or whatever. In general, we don't want to offend anybody, and we don't unnecessarily criticize unless they're really offending other devotees and other, persons like that. So generally, we don't want to criticize unnecessarily anybody.
At what stage are we allowed to practice Raganuga Bhakti, at Bhava or at Nishta?
Well, Raganuga is a sadhana, so it cannot be bhava. Raganuga sadhana will lead to bhava, so it can never be bhava. So it could be at Nishta, but in Ragvartma Chandrika, Vishnu says you could start with Raganuga also. So it would depend on how much you are attracted to follow after the inhabitants of Raja, of Vrindavan, and your greed for that. That would be your qualification, which usually develops through association with other devotees who have such greed.
We hear in scripture that one can get liberation with Namabhas chanting. Does this refer to Vaikuntha? So those stages of Bhava and Prema and offences are obstacles only for Goloka Vrindavan?
Oh, well, no, it could be anywhere. Namabhas, of course, can refer to Majamil, for instance, which was accidental Namabhas. It can also refer to intentional chanting, but with impurities, like mixing it with karmas and whatever like that, organa. That's also considered Namabhas. Both of those can lead upwards, of course, if we're talking about no offenses. But you can get to Vaikuntha, but unless you do pure bhakti, which is beyond Namabhas, and not mixed bhakti of any sort, and then you cannot get rasas like Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya. Of course, we can't get the others, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya in Vaikuntha anyway, but you couldn't even get up to Dasya if you got the Namabhas only. So what you can get is Salokya, Sarsti, and Sarupya. So you can get to Vaikuntha and get a spiritual body, and you get some sort of relationship with favorable relationship with the Lord, but it's very weak. So it's more like Baba than Prema. And so it's just probably like more like Shanta than anything else.
Is that why Ajamil was, even after the Vishnu Dutas met him, is that why he remained for some more years?
No, in his case, he actually, because due to his sins, he got a little bit early visit from Yamaraj. So then after he heard from the Vishnu Dutas and whatever, then they extended his life to his natural extent, and then he went to Haridwar, and he got, of course, we say mercy of the Vishnu Dutas, he got inspired to do bhakti. So then he got prema and went to Vaikuntha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. We heard at the beginning that you were personally instructed by Srila Prabhupada on deity worship. I was wondering if you could share something that he shared with you to help devotees do that.
Yeah, of course, deity worship in the beginning was quite simple. Wasn't very complex, and the instructions also are pretty simple. But anyway, it just when I'd ask questions, then he would give different answers, like, do we offer Ekadasi to Gornitai or not, Prasadam or not, or to Radha Krishna, something like that. So, just asking rather detailed questions on certain aspects of deity worship.
Maharaj, I had a question. I want to talk to you. You gave an example of Ajamil. Nowadays, I think, or I normally get to your parents, they name their kids as Narayan, thinking that, just by saying that, is that also an approach?
No, it's good for them. They keep saying they name Raparad, even if they're not worshiping him, like Ajamil didn't worship at all. So it can be accidental bhakti in that sense. They exposed to the name, so that's a type of namabhas. As long as they don't think, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this and then commit some sinful activities, because I'm saying the Narayana, then I'm free. Then it's the offense of the holy name, committing offense to the committing sinful activity in the strength of the holy name. So that would be an aparad.
But if your child is naughty and they beat him up.
So then, because we're saying your name, we're exempted from the sin of beating the child.
Say name with anger.
You can say the name in anger, you can say the name anyway, it still has some effect. Like Shishupala and Kamsa saying Krishna's name in anger, they get some effect from that. Not good, and so much good, strong effect, but they get some purification from that also.
Hare Krishna. Just silly question. So when we say however we chant, even in Namabhasa, unintentional chanting, so it gives effect, it destroys the karma. So in that case, at least 80% of Indian population would chant Lord's name one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like Balaji Tiffin Center, Krishna, but say something and Lord's name would be there.
Yeah.
So 80% of the Indian population's karma should have been destroyed.
Yeah.
So they should have got that sattva qualities or that intention to bhakti.
Yeah.
So we can't say all 80% committed aparad to each other. So,
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know what they've done in their previous lifetimes. Maybe they, insulted some devotees or something, so whatever. We don't know what they've done in previous lifetimes. But if they do chant the holy name, it's definitely beneficial for them, that's all. And if they name their sons, after Vishnu or whatever, then very good. It's a type of namabhas that can help them.
It's just a clarification with the other question regarding Rupa Goswami. The question is, was Rupa Goswami affected or by this offense, even while in Prema?
Yeah, well, actually we could say no, because in Prema you cannot be affected or whatever like that. But then again, as I said, when you're in the material world, people can take offense against you. So apparently there could be some effect like that. But in the case of, Anitya Siddha or whatever, we say this is more of a lila than an actual, degradation of their prema. Just to illustrate to us the effect of even unconscious aparad or whatever.
It also, I thought, demonstrated the extreme intelligence of Rupa Goswami to figure out who he had offended.
Yeah. Well, that was Sanatana Goswami's advice, no? Yeah, he advised them what to do. Okay, that's it. Right, okay. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada Gita.